So, my boyfriend and I met on Tinder. Oh boy. So, we matched and then immediately we had fun conversations about everything under the sun. It started kind of because we both like devil's lettuce. Anywho, after about a month or two of texting daily and talking non-stop, we decided we can meet for a date night. However, I was 19 and had no license, so I invited him over and made dinner and watched movies. We talked about family dynamics and really just shared our life stories with each other. After that first night, he wanted to start seeing me weekly, and then a few times weekly, and then, before we knew it, we'd been dating about 4 months and I'd never met his family. We lived about an hour away from each other, so we planned a day for me to meet his parents. I'd already had conversations with his mom, sister, and his aunts over Facebook or Snapchat. Literally everything was great. I loved being around his family. They were so much different than my broken family. We are never in the same room for more than 30 minutes. It's really upsetting, honestly. Well, about a year and a half in, his sister is engaged, and I half expected to be asked to be a bridesmaid. I never was. Which didn't bother me. His sister is 6 years older and she has friends and family. Cool, right? Well, it was the week of Father's Day, and I was out with my boyfriend and his mom texted him and then called. I ignored it and continued to look for a Father's Day gift for his dad. I don't have a dad. I've never had a father figure, so I really do love and appreciate my boyfriend's dad. He soaked me a lot with my car and things like that. At this point, my boyfriend tells me that his sister invited his ex-girlfriend to her bridal shower because they became friends. She hadn't talked to his sister in 4 years. Of course, that upset me and frustrated me. So I stopped talking to them over the phone until I could talk and say my piece in person. This ex was who he lost his V to, and I am a little jealous and insecure, absolutely no doubt, and I don't deny it. She also just treated him like garbage, lied to him. She'd say she loves him and then ghost him for a month or two, go to another state for a couple weeks, and then come back and act like nothing happened. Wouldn't call, wouldn't text. She'd just up and leave. Plus, my boyfriend's mom and boyfriend said she was a crappy friend to his sister. So, I dislike her for dating my boyfriend, obviously. But more so than that, I know she really drug him around. He literally waited on her the whole 4 years to get her crap together, and she never even considered them dating. She said she only toyed with him. So, yeah, I just think that's a super crappy, witchy thing to do. He was 18 and she was 22, and she was telling him they'd be together, and meanwhile, she had no intention of that. We don't really talk to his family in the meantime. The day of, his aunt texted me and asked me to come to the shower. I reluctantly showed up. His ex didn't show up. I told my boyfriend's mom and sister that it made me upset they invited her. They said, well, this is her wedding and not yours, so she's still invited. That was that. Then, his mom asked me to throw his sister's bachelorette party, and yet again I did. I planned a nice bachelorette party at the absolute nicest hotel in my city. It had marbled floors, ceilings, and a marbled spiral staircase. The hotel also had a skylit bridge kind of thing. I had arranged for the bridge to be her wedding color, blue. I also made all the food, decorated the rooms, had everything set up. My boyfriend's sister and her friends all ditched me, and his cousin at the hotel. That's cool, right? So then the day of the wedding. His ex shows up in a skin-tight latex dress with the underboobs cut out. Like, what in the duck? Who is she even dressed for like that? I left. I told my boyfriend the situation and gave him his keys and told him I was Ubering home. I told him he could stay and have a good time. I know it's his only sister's wedding. He said no, duck that, and left with me. He was irate she was even invited. I apparently ruined her wedding day, according to her and her mom. I stopped talking to his mom and sister altogether pretty much. Fast forward a year, and I'm pregnant with my son. My boyfriend's mom came over and we told her. She was excited. So, she calls her daughter and makes my boyfriend tell her on speaker. She said, really? Out of wedlock? Well, at least my husband and I are doing things right. She hung up after. I wasn't shocked, I just went upstairs to my room and watched TV until his mom left. A month later, my boyfriend's family and ourselves all go out to dinner and see a tree lighting. The entire time, his sister was a B. His mom said, how far along are you? I told her I was 8 weeks. His sister pipes up, you should have an A, you still have time. She literally got another drink every time I was asked about my pregnancy. I'm not sure how much more I should type, this is already a book. I just wanted to vent a little. Over it. Your future sister-in-law bought herself a ticket on the never meeting my child train. That behavior goes way beyond petty. OP, I hope that your boyfriend, future dear husband, keeps a shiny spine and doesn't allow his family to treat you like this. Sending you internet hugs if you want them. From the moment you became serious, they started disliking you. Must be because you can't be manipulated to do what they want you to do. Except for the bachelorette party. The whole ex-girlfriend thing was manipulation, hoping to upset you, piss you off enough to leave. Good for you and significant other for standing tall on that. Wipe your hands of them, sister-in-law and mother-in-law too. You and your little one don't need that negative vibe around you, now or after birth. You both are a package deal. Either respect, love, and treat both of you nicely, or they get neither. Block them on everything. Don't give them the correct birth date, hospital, or anything. If they don't know where you live, great. If they do, see if you can move. Significant other can have any kind of relationship with them if he wants, but make sure he knows you don't want one. And little one goes where you go. I met my husband Greg through my sister Anne 18 years ago. It was love at first sight, and 10 months later, we were married. We had a wonderful life and 2 beautiful children together, 12 female and 10 male. A year ago, he was diagnosed with cancer, and he finally lost the fight 2 weeks ago. The best I can say is that my children and I are just about surviving, and my children will shortly be attending grief counseling. My childhood was a very unhappy one, and I come from a very large family. I left home at 18 and stayed with Anne, at the time my favorite sister, until I found my feet, and that is how I met Greg. I did not find out that she was in love with him until we announced our engagement. She wrote us a poison pen letter saying dreadful things about me. That more or less spelt the end of any relationship between us and Anne. She wasn't invited to the wedding, but the night before, she found Greg and begged him to run away with her, implied I was mistreating him, and was generally awful. Greg shut her down, obviously, and we had a beautiful wedding day, complete with the last-minute addition of a friend who moonlighted as a bouncer. To be clear, Greg had no interest in Anne at all, and they had absolutely no involvement beyond a year or 2 of friendship before he met me. Any feeling was entirely on her part, and consistently, firmly rejected by Greg. So we moved overseas and hadn't heard from her in nearly 18 years, except for the odd passive-aggressive Christmas card. Another sibling told her he was unwell, and she sent him an enormous fruit basket and hilariously cloying card. But she didn't visit. When Greg died, that all changed. 3 days after his death, she arrived at my front door unannounced and collapsed on me in tears about their special connection. I was not in a good state, and when she set herself up in my spare bedroom, I was unable to do anything about it. I think this was understandable in the circumstances. She has been nothing but awful, demanding, undermining, and offensive ever since. She is telling everyone lies, that she is being a good sister, helping me since I am falling apart and neglecting my children. I have a core of friends who are totally on my side and have been phenomenally supportive, but they are all as stumped as me. R.e., her behavior. At the funeral, she sat in the pew reserved for family, i.e., me, our children, and his parents. She sobbed throughout the funeral so loudly that the priest had to pause for her to calm down. Obviously, she is allowed to grieve, but 1, it has been 18 years. She has moved on, and 2, she was making a scene. It wasn't about her feeling upset. It was about everyone knowing she was the most upset, and that's despicable. I need her to leave. I super need her to leave. She is upsetting my children. She is upsetting me. I can't take it anymore, but she won't go. She keeps telling me she'll leave, then not. I bought her a cheap plane ticket home and tricked her into getting into the car and drove her to the airport, and she just refused to go. I've never seen anything like it. I've tried talking to my family about it, and they just keep saying that I must have misunderstood, that she's trying to help, that I'm not coping well, and I should be grateful. I don't know why she's here. I feel like she's punishing me for being loved by Greg. I don't know how to get her to leave. I don't want to call the police. I'm afraid to do anything too extreme because I don't want to lose my family entirely. Edit. Not Anne. I've been no contact for 18 years and will return to that ASAP. But I want to maintain a relationship with my 7 other siblings. If I go nuclear with Anne, I am sure they will take her side. I'm afraid to leave her alone in the house. I don't have the emotional resources to deal with this. Help. How do I get her to leave? How do I get my family to understand the situation and make her leave? I feel like it should be obvious, but I am swimming in treacle. Greg would know what to do, but he's gone, and I don't know how to deal with this. Your sister is grieving, sure, but she's being completely disrespectful. If you have family you can trust, or the friend who played bouncer, sit down with them and tell them that you need your sister to leave, and you need help getting her out. Give your sister a few days' warning, and then have the family or friend come over and extract her. Just tell her that you can't grieve properly with a guest, and you and your children need to be alone. Don't ask her to leave. Tell her to leave. If you can't get family or friends to help, just pack her stuff and call a cab. If she makes a scene, warn her you'll call the police if she doesn't go. You don't owe her anything. For your sister, you need to be blunt to both her and your family that you want nothing to do with her and she needs to leave. If your family doesn't know the history, tell them. Then tell Anne in no uncertain terms to get the duck out. Things are difficult enough for you right now. You don't need her around making things even worse. Hang in there, OP. Things will get better with time. Update. Okay, I get the message. I really appreciate the advice. I've spoken with Kat. She thinks I'm overreacting and is refusing to get involved. However, when I said I would call the police, she said she would help Anne get home if the police agreed with me and wouldn't let her back in. I'm deeply upset with the lack of support I'm getting on this from my family. But one of my concerns about calling the police is that I didn't know what would happen afterwards. Anne will still be in my town, with my address. So knowing that Kat will at least encourage Anne to come home is something. Greg and mine's best friends are coming over. She'll take the kids to play with theirs, and he'll stay with me while I talk to Anne, and phone the police if she doesn't immediately leave. Wish me luck. Update 2. So, my friends came. The wife took the kids, and the husband, Ben, stayed with me. Ben and I told Anne that she needed to leave, and Ben is not someone who brooks much disagreement, and she just flipped. She started howling and clawing at herself. I phoned the police, explaining there was a mental health crisis. I explained her erratic behavior, and that I was afraid she was going to hurt herself. I know the operator could hear the noises she was making, and the police came fairly quickly. As soon as I told Anne the police were coming, she calmed down completely. It was unnerving. By the time the police came, she was fine. I explained what had happened, but she acted like she was totally fine. She said she was just upset. I explained that she was a guest whose outbursts made me concerned about the safety of my children, and Ben described how disturbing her reaction had been. In the end, they said that they weren't able to hold her, so I told her in front of the police that she was no longer welcome, that she needed to find a hotel to stay in until she was ready to go back to Ireland where the rest of the family is. Even Anne won't try anything in those circumstances, so she went and started packing. She hadn't broken any criminal laws. A few people mentioned trespass, but that's civil, so the police can't do anything. But she doesn't have any rights as a tenant or anything. I spoke to the officers in private and explained everything, and they agreed to wait while she packed and left. I had already locked my bedroom door, but I went up with the police officer and watched her to make sure she didn't do anything weird. They spoke to her privately too, but whatever she said doesn't seem to have been that bad, for her or me. So she left and the police left, but they said that if she did anything that worried me, to contact them again. They were decent sorts, if a little bit bemused. And I think I may have used the call as a pretext, but even the operator commented on the noises through the phone. Anne seems to have taken Greg's toothbrush, but honestly, I don't care at this point. I have contacted an emergency locksmith and have decided to let the children have a sleepover. I don't like them being out of my sight, but it means they'll be safe if she tries anything tonight. And Ben will be taking over residence of the guest room for a night. I rang Kat, and she said that Anne had already been in touch, and the version she told Kat was very different. Again, I don't care. I will resolve the family drama when Anne is back in Ireland. The upshot is, I am worse sister. Kat is flying over to pick Anne up. They're going to take a couple of days to reflect and remember, and Kat will take her back to Ireland. Haha. My brother is getting married soon. He gave his fiancée unlimited control over the wedding planning, and she asked me to help her because she had never planned a big event before, and my family are known for throwing extravagant parties, so she feels a lot of pressure to get this right. Yesterday I met up with her and her best friend, Jade, to brainstorm ideas before she meets her wedding planner. Things were going fine, but I noticed that whenever my sister-in-law would suggest something or seem really excited by an idea, Jade would always criticize it and put her off. She also kept comparing things to her wedding and was acting like her wedding, which was nice, but not something to be jealous over, based on the pictures she kept showing me, was the gold standard. After about 3 hours of looking through things, my sister-in-law looked like she was giving up because Jade kept criticizing everything, and to me, it seemed like she was trying to make sure my sister-in-law's wedding was worse than hers. Jade also kept picking the cheapest and usually ugliest options, and I got the impression that she didn't want my sister-in-law to spend more than she did, because she kept bringing up money, even though my brother was clear that there was no budget for the wedding, and this was just supposed to be a brainstorming day, so it wasn't relevant. We started looking at potential venues, and my sister-in-law really liked one, but the estimate prices were high. Based on the pictures, the venue was beautiful. Jade immediately started criticizing it and was trying to convince my sister-in-law to pick the cheaper, less nice venue we had seen before. Honestly, I was fed up with her putting all of her ideas down, so I jokingly said she had cheap taste and the guests will expect better. Jade got so defensive and angry. She kept going on about how something being more expensive doesn't make it better, and how she liked the other venue because it had more character. Things quickly wrapped up after that, and today my sister-in-law texted me to say Jade was very upset with me over what I said, and that she didn't think she could come to any more wedding planning sessions if I would be there, unless I apologize. Before I decide if I will apologize or not, I was wondering, am I the a-hole? Are you close to your sister-in-law? If so, tell her about what you're thinking about everything Jade was saying.